Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now. The hot stove is officially blazing in South Philadelphia, and what just went down might be the most underrated steal of the entire offseason. While the baseball world obsesses over mega deals and headline-grabbing free agent signings, the Philadelphia Phillies front office just executed a masterclass in roster construction that has all the makings of another Tampa Bay Rays heist. Yes, you read that right. The Phillies have done it again, plucking premium pitching talent from the organization that practically invented modern pitching development, and the parallels to their previous coups are downright eerie. According to Matt Gelb of The Athletic, one of the most plugged-in insiders covering the Phillies beat, Philadelphia has officially acquired 23-year-old right-handed pitcher Yaniel Curet from the Tampa Bay Rays. In exchange, the Phillies sent minor league reliever Tommy McCollum to Florida. On paper, this might look like a simple depth transaction, the kind of move that gets buried in the transaction wire and forgotten by spring training. But make no mistake, this is the type of calculated gamble that separates championship organizations from also-rans. This is vintage Dave Dombrowski and Sam Fuld operating at their absolute finest, identifying market inefficiencies and exploiting them with surgical precision. Let's be brutally honest about where the Phillies stand right now. The rotation features Zach Wheeler, one of the most dominant pitchers in baseball, and Aaron Nola, a homegrown ace who has been the backbone of this staff for nearly a decade. The bullpen, while occasionally maddening as all bullpens tend to be, features legitimate weapons like José Alvarado, Jeff Hoffman, and Matt Strahm. From a pure need standpoint, pitching was not screaming as the most desperate area requiring immediate attention. The Phillies could have easily sat back, counted their blessings, and focused resources elsewhere. But that's not how elite organizations operate. That's not how you build sustainable success in a sport where one injury or one cold streak can derail an entire season. The Phillies understand a fundamental truth that separates the contenders from the pretenders. You can never have too much pitching, especially when you can acquire it at bargain basement prices. So who exactly is Yaniel Curet, and why should Phillies fans be buzzing with anticipation about his arrival? The scouting report on this young fireballer is fascinating, equal parts tantalizing and concerning. Curet possesses an absolutely electric fastball, the kind of heater that makes hitters uncomfortable in the batter's box before they even see a pitch. We're talking about a power arm with legitimate swing-and-miss stuff, the raw ingredients that pitching coaches dream about molding. However, and this is a significant however, Curet has battled command issues throughout his professional career. His inability to consistently throw strikes has been the primary obstacle preventing him from reaching his considerable ceiling. The walks pile up, the pitch counts balloon, and suddenly a dominant outing turns into a high-wire act. Now, if you've been following the Phillies closely over the past few years, this scouting report should sound remarkably familiar. In fact, it's almost identical to the concerns that surrounded José Alvarado when Philadelphia acquired him from Tampa Bay back in 2021. Alvarado came to Philadelphia with elite stuff, but maddening wildness, a pitcher who could strike out the side or walk 3 consecutive batters with equal probability. The Phillies pitching development staff, led by the brilliant Caleb Cotham, went to work simplifying Alvarado's delivery and refining his approach. The results have been nothing short of spectacular. Alvarado transformed from an inconsistent headache into an absolute bullpen weapon, a lefty specialist capable of getting outs in the highest leverage situations imaginable. But the Alvarado success story isn't even the most impressive example of the Phillies unlocking Tampa Bay pitching talent. That distinction belongs to Christopher Sanchez, another former Ray who arrived in Philadelphia with question marks and has blossomed into one of the most reliable starters in the entire National League. Sanchez was designated for assignment by Tampa Bay, deemed expendable by an organization famous for its pitching development prowess. The Phillies claimed him, worked their magic, and suddenly had an all-star caliber left-handed starter who can eat innings and dominate opposing lineups. The pattern is impossible to ignore. The The Phillies have now gone back to the Tampa Bay well multiple times and struck gold on pitchers the Rays themselves gave up on. This brings us back to Curet and why this acquisition is so intriguing. Before being designated for assignment, Curet was ranked as the 22nd best prospect in the Tampa Bay system. Think about that for a moment. This isn't some organizational filler or long-shot lottery ticket languishing in low-A ball. This is a legitimate prospect with real talent and upside, somebody the Rays believed in enough to protect on their 40-man roster. The fact that Tampa Bay ultimately decided to move on doesn't diminish his talent. It simply means they either ran out of roster space or lost patience with his development timeline. The Phillies are betting they can succeed where Tampa Bay couldn't, harnessing all that raw power and teaching the control necessary to unlock his full potential. By adding Curet to the 40-man roster, the Phillies are making a clear statement. They believe his ceiling is worth the roster spot, worth the investment of time and coaching resources. This isn't a throwaway move or a token depth addition. This is a targeted acquisition of a young arm with legitimate upside. Even better, Curet still has minor league options remaining, which provides the Phillies with crucial roster flexibility. If he needs more seasoning or refinement, he can start the year in Lehigh Valley without any complications. If he impresses in spring training and demonstrates improved command, he could break camp with the big league club and contribute immediately. The optionality here is a massive advantage, allowing the organization to be patient with his development while maintaining the ability to call him up the moment he's ready. Let's dive deeper into the numbers because they paint a compelling picture of why Dombrowski and Fould pulled the trigger on this deal. In exchange for Curet, the Phillies parted ways with Tommy McCollum, a 26-year-old minor league reliever. This is no disrespect to McCollum, who by all accounts is a perfectly serviceable organizational arm. But at 26 years old, you generally have a pretty good sense of what a player is going to be at the major league level. His ceiling is visible, his projection is known. Curet, by contrast, is just 23 years old and has significantly higher upside. Those 3 years might not sound like much, but in baseball development terms, that's an eternity. That's the difference between a finished product and clay that can still be molded. Now let's examine Curet's statistical track record because it reveals why the Phillies see legitimate starter or high-leverage reliever potential. In the 2025 season, Curet posted a 3.90 earned run average across 14 starts and 16 total appearances. That's a perfectly respectable baseline number, especially for a young pitcher still finding his way. But when you look back just a bit further, the dominance becomes undeniable, and his trajectory looks even more promising. In 2022, across 15 games with 10 starts, Curet posted an absolutely dazzling 2.14 ERA. He followed that up in 2023 with a 2.94 ERA in 26 appearances, continuing to miss bats and prevent runs. Even in 2024, working as a full-time starter for 26 games, he maintained a 2.95 ERA. These numbers demonstrate remarkable consistency in run prevention, even as the walks occasionally mounted. The data strongly suggests that even when Curet is battling his command, batters still have a miserable time trying to square him up and drive the baseball. The underlying philosophy here is crystal clear, and it's one that has guided successful pitching development for generations. You can teach a pitcher to throw strikes through mechanical adjustments, simplified approaches, and repetition. What you absolutely cannot teach is a 98-mile-per-hour fastball with natural movement. That's God-given talent, the kind of arm strength that separates prospects from organizational depth. If the Phillies' pitching development staff can tweak Curet's mechanics by even 10%, if they can find small adjustments that improve his command and pitch ability, we're potentially looking at an absolute weapon. The raw materials are elite. The ceiling is sky high. All that's needed is refinement, and if there's one thing the Phillies have proven they can do, it's refine talented pitchers from Tampa Bay. The comparison to the José Alvarado acquisition truly is the most relevant and instructive parallel. Remember how genuinely frustrating Alvarado could be during his first few months in Philadelphia? The walks came in bunches, the high-stress innings aged fans in real time, and there were legitimate questions about whether he'd ever harness his electric stuff. The coaching staff worked tirelessly to simplify his delivery, to give him clear targets and repeatable mechanics. The transformation was remarkable. Alvarado went from maddening to unhittable, from a source of anxiety to a weapon you wanted on the mound with the game on the line. Curet has that same kind of violent delivery and explosive ball flight. He throws angry with the kind of aggression and velocity that overwhelms hitters when it's working. If the Phillies can channel that aggression the way they did with Alvarado, the National League better watch out. Furthermore, this move signals something critically important about the organizational mindset. The Phillies are absolutely not resting on their laurels or sitting satisfied with their current roster construction. They already selected Zach McCambley in the Rule 5 draft, adding another interesting arm to the organizational depth chart. Now they've traded for Curet, continuing to stockpile young pitching talent with upside. This is how championship-caliber organizations operate. They understand that in a grueling 162-game season, depth is everything. Injuries happen with maddening regularity. Fatigue sets in during the dog days of summer. Performance fluctuates across 6 months of baseball. Having a guy like Curet who can serve as an emergency spot starter or transition into a multi-inning flamethrower out of the bullpen is absolutely invaluable. Imagine this scenario. It's August, the pennant race is heating up, and the Phillies need someone to give them quality innings. Maybe there's been an injury to the rotation, or perhaps the bullpen needs reinforcement after a brutal stretch of games. Curet, after spending the first few months of the season refining his command in Lehigh Valley, gets the call to Citizens Bank Park. He brings that triple-digit heat, attacks hitters with confidence, and suddenly, the Phillies have another weapon at their disposal precisely when they need it most. That's not fantasy. That's smart roster construction and long-term planning paying dividends when championships are won and lost. The cost of doing business here, parting ways with Tommy McCollum, is genuinely negligible when weighed against the potential upside of discovering another diamond in the rough from the Tampa Bay system. McCollum was organizational depth, a nice insurance policy, but not someone who was going to fundamentally change the trajectory of the franchise. Curet, if everything clicks, could absolutely be a difference maker. He could be the kind of arm that gets you through October when every pitch matters and every out is precious. This is a savvy, calculated gamble by a front office that has earned the benefit of the doubt. Dombrowski didn't build his Hall of Fame caliber resume by playing it safe. He built it by identifying value, taking strategic risks, and maximizing every possible avenue to improve the roster. The Rays, for their part, are one of the most analytically sophisticated and pitching-savvy organizations in all of baseball. The fact that they developed Curet, saw his potential, and ultimately decided to move on doesn't diminish what he could become. If anything, it represents an opportunity. The Rays have roster crunches and organizational priorities that forced tough decisions. The Phillies, operating with different constraints and different development philosophies, get to benefit from Tampa Bay's roster squeeze. It's the exact same dynamic that brought Alvarado and Sanchez to Philadelphia, and look how spectacularly those moves worked out. There's also something to be said about organizational culture and player development environments. Tampa Bay operates on razor-thin budgets and constantly churns through players, always looking toward the next wave of talent. Philadelphia, while certainly mindful of resources, has the financial flexibility and organizational patience to invest in player development. Sometimes a change of scenery is exactly what a young player needs. Sometimes a different coaching voice, a new approach, or simply a fresh start is the catalyst that unlocks dormant potential. The Phillies are betting that Curet will thrive in their environment, that Caleb Cotham and his staff will find the key that Tampa Bay couldn't. Speaking of Cotham, his fingerprints are all over this acquisition. The Phillies pitching coach has developed a well-earned reputation as one of the best in the business at maximizing stuff and improving command. Under his guidance, the Phillies pitching staff has consistently overperformed expectations. Starters have added velocity and refined secondary offerings. Relievers have tightened their command and increased their strikeout rates. This didn't happen by accident. It happened through detailed biomechanical analysis, personalized coaching, and a willingness to try unconventional approaches if conventional methods weren't working. Kotham looks at a pitcher like Curet and sees a project he can fix, a puzzle he can solve. That confidence, backed by a track record of success, is why moves like this have a legitimate chance of paying enormous dividends. Let's also consider the broader strategic context of this acquisition within the Phillies' competitive window. This franchise is all in on winning right now. They have an expensive, veteran-laden roster built to compete for championships immediately. Every move has to be evaluated through that lens. You might think that means focusing exclusively on established veterans who can contribute immediately, and to some extent that's true. But championship rosters also need cost-controlled young talent who can provide surplus value. If Curet develops into even a solid middle reliever or back-end starter, he's providing major league production at essentially league minimum salary. That kind of value allows the front office to allocate resources elsewhere, to spend on impact free agents or retain core players. It's all connected. Every smart move compounds into sustainable success. The Phillies have also demonstrated remarkable patience and creativity in how they've built their pitching staff. They didn't just throw money at free agents and hope for the best. They mixed strategic free agent signings with shrewd trades and under-the-radar acquisitions. They invested in player development infrastructure and coaching talent. They created an organizational culture where pitchers want to come and develop. That culture attracts talent and maximizes the return on every investment. Curet is the latest beneficiary of that organizational philosophy, arriving in Philadelphia with elite raw stuff and a development team that specializes in exactly the kind of refinement he needs. There's genuine excitement building around this move within the Phillies fan base, and rightfully so. The team's recent history of plucking pitchers from Tampa Bay and watching them flourish has created earned optimism. Fans have seen this movie before, and they know how it ends. It ends with dominant pitching performances, crucial outs in big moments, and organizational depth that proves invaluable over the long season. The fact that the Phillies keep going back to this well, keep targeting Rays pitchers with control issues, but electric stuff, demonstrates they've identified a market inefficiency they can consistently exploit. That's smart baseball operations. That's how you build sustained success. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Is Yoniel Curet going to win the Cy Young Award next season? Almost certainly not. Will he immediately slot into the rotation and become an ace? Highly unlikely. But that's not what this move is about. This is about acquiring controllable talent with significant upside at minimal cost. This is about giving your player development staff another talented arm to mold. This is about stacking the organizational depth chart with interesting options so that when inevitable needs arise, you have internal solutions. Could Curet be the next José Alvarado? A dominant bullpen weapon who becomes automatic in high-leverage situations? Absolutely. Could he be the next Christopher Sanchez, a starting pitcher who far exceeds expectations and becomes a cornerstone of the rotation? The history suggests it's entirely possible. The beauty of this acquisition is the risk-reward profile is almost perfectly balanced in Philadelphia's favor. The downside is minimal. If Curet never figures out the command issues, if he can't make the necessary adjustments, the Phillies are out essentially nothing. They gave up a minor league reliever who wasn't blocking any prospects or affecting the major league roster. That's it. But the upside is tremendous. If even half of Curet's potential is realized, if he becomes a useful major league pitcher who can eat innings and get outs, this trade will have been a massive success. And if he develops into something more, into a genuine impact arm, this will go down as yet another Dombrowski heist. The front office is placing their trust in the coaching staff, believing that Kotham and his team can fix what Tampa Bay couldn't. Given their recent track record, given the tangible success they've had with similar projects, That trust feels entirely justified. The Phillies have earned the benefit of the doubt on pitching development moves. They've shown they can identify talented arms flying under the radar and turn them into productive major leaguers. This institutional knowledge, this organizational competency, is what separates great front offices from mediocre ones. The Phillies are operating at an elite level, finding edges wherever they exist. Looking ahead to spring training, Curet will have every opportunity to prove himself and force his way into the conversation for a roster spot. The Phillies aren't going to hand him anything, but they're giving him a legitimate chance to compete. That's all any young player can ask for. The tools are there. The coaching infrastructure is in place. Now it's up to Curet to put in the work, make the necessary adjustments, and seize his opportunity. The stage is set for another feel-good story about a Tampa Bay cast-off finding new life in Philadelphia. We've seen this story before, and it never gets old. So here's the bottom line for Phillies fans everywhere. Your team just potentially fleeced the Tampa Bay Rays for a third time, acquiring a 23-year-old pitcher with electric stuff for essentially nothing. The front office continues to demonstrate savvy roster management and creative problem-solving. The pitching development staff gets another intriguing project to work their magic on. The organizational depth chart gets stronger, providing crucial insurance for the inevitable challenges of a long season. This is how championship teams operate. They don't just make the splashy moves that dominate headlines, they also make the smart, under-the-radar acquisitions that pay dividends when it matters most. The road to another deep October run starts with moves exactly like this one, small calculated gambles that compound into significant competitive advantages. Dave Dombrowski and Sam Fuld understand this better than almost anyone in baseball. They've built championship rosters before, and they know every angle must be exploited to maximize the chances of success. Acquiring Curet might not generate the same buzz as signing a marquee free agent. But don't be fooled. This is the kind of move that wins championships, the kind of organizational savvy that separates contenders from pretenders. The Phillies just got better, and they did it without breaking the bank or sacrificing significant prospect capital. That's masterful front office work, plain and simple. The hot stove season is just getting started, and if this is the kind of creative, value-driven move we can expect from the Phillies front office, fans have every reason to be excited about what's coming next. The organization is leaving no stone unturned, exploring every possible avenue to improve the roster and enhance the championship odds. Curet represents opportunity, potential, and the tantalizing possibility of finding another diamond in the rough. In a sport where marginal gains compound into championships, this move matters. This move could be the difference maker nobody saw coming. Welcome to Philadelphia, Curet. The pitching lab is ready for you, and if history is any guide, great things are about to happen. Now it's time to hear from the Phillies faithful. Do you trust this front office to work their magic again? Can Caleb Cotham and the pitching development staff turn Curet into the next Alvarado or Sanchez? Drop your thoughts, predictions, and reactions in the comments. Let's build the most engaged, passionate baseball community on the platform. Smash that like button if you're excited about this under-the-radar move. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss breaking news, trade analysis, or hot takes all winter long. Share this with every Phillies fan, because the road to Red October starts right now with smart moves like this one. Thank you for being part of this incredible community. Stay locked in, keep the faith, and as always, go Phillies. Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.